The music from the organ gets louder as I move through the back corridors of Albestan Church. It serves as a guide, flowing through the halls, vibrating the air around me, thick with power. It entices me to move faster. Franck follows behind me obediently. Torchlight glows off the bare walls of the empty tunnel. Our boots splash in the stagnant water, causing rats and tiny insects to shy away as we pass. The ground dips and rises from years of erosion. Cobwebs make up the majority of the ceiling decor, and all the while I wonder how the back end of the church has succumbed to such disarray. Certainly the masses at church pull their fair share in coin. Turning down another corridor, I enter the ancestral hall. Between every other stone in the wall lies a skull, speckled with blood. They are displayed behind iron-wrought bars, their jaws agape, teeth missing in some cracks in all of them. This is the chamber where devotion of one's own blood is given to those long dead, the ancestral archbishops. I pay no homage to them this time, for my urgency is paramount. Covered in Bogart blood, I tracked Phil through the church's most sacred grounds, passing straight into the worship chamber. Instantly, I am greeted with a myriad of colors, brilliant cascades of orange, blue, and yellow. The colors paint the room through stained glass windows. Light comes from the large roaring fires burning on opposite sides of the panes. I shade my eyes from the brightness and see the woman from earlier, the one who would soon become a Bogart. She kneels before a pew, her child on the floor next to her, hands folded. She cries uncontrollably, but her sobs drown in the powerful organ music. The chamber, larger than all of the other rooms in the church combined, opens into a circular expanse. Candelabras line the center aisle. Dried wax extends from the drip plates, cascading off the sides to the floor. Some of the wicks still carry a flame. As the music flows through my blood, there is a sharp change in harmony. The intensity drops into decrescendo, quieting to a level of conversation. I move toward the figure bending before an endless throne of wood and metal pipes, disappearing into the ceiling above. Pews pass alongside me as I walk down the center. From the corner of my eye, I see Franck peering behind statues, pointing his crossbow at the shadows. As I move closer to the organ player, the music stops suddenly, and the figure stands and turns to face me. Red robes and white gloves, the figure's face is hidden behind a gold mask in the image of a tragic smile. Pain is the first thing that comes to mind. Two thin horns of a stag protrude from the forehead crest, wavy and grooved. They sparkle with glossy sheen, as if wet with water. The light from the stained glass windows mix with the gold to create new colors, colors bent beyond their standard chromatic spheres. "Praise be to God," says the tall man. The voice resonates deep from behind the mask. I know the response to follow up with, but I say nothing. The necessity of formalities is long gone. I replace it with impatience. "Where has everyone gone, Father?" I sense the man will not say anything, but the deep voice responds. "Lord Wolfgang, let us not forget you stand in the house of God." The baritone of his voice rattles my bones. I stare him down as he begins to undo the clasps. "I know very well where I stand, Bronin, but God is not currently home." With the mask off, I am left staring at a wrinkled face. Radiant blue eyes stare back at me, defiant and shocked. I know I have offended my lifelong friend, but what choice do I have? I need answers now, and the longer I draw things out, the less chance I have of finding my son. Blasphemy is not tolerated here, Bronin says, placing his gloved hands on my shoulders. I can barely feel his touch through my armor. He continues, Lord Wolfgang, you know very well the order left at sunset. They make way for the Cordova Pass as we speak. Once winter sets, there will be no passage in or out of the valley. This you know. My shoulders stay tense. I feel childish for the abruptness, but cannot stifle my concern. Why didn't the Archbishop come back to aid his people? And the other priests, clergy, what about them? Father Bronin lets out a sigh and tosses the mask onto a nearby pew. You know how the caravan works, my lord. Once in motion, there is no stopping. The caravan left hours before the attack. The Archbishop will not be returning. No one will be returning. Nestor and I are here now. We remain to remind those that God is here. He is watching all of us. Watching all of us? I ask angrily. I can't stop myself. Where? Out there on the streets covered in blood? My voice echoes throughout the chamber. His grip falls from me. The woman kneeling at the pew turns her head towards us. Was he watching over us when the families of this town were shredded like meat? I ask, raking my hands across my chest. Where was he, Bronin? Water wells at the corners of my eyes. It is from the hatred I feel towards God, or remembering my beloved family dead? Father Bronin stares at me. I look up at the domed ceiling to prevent tears from running down my face. I feel a tighter grip on me this time. What has happened, my son? There is concern in Bronin's words. I fall to my knees. Immediately, Diana shrouds my thoughts, my love dead and cold on her bed of earth. I recall the blood flowing through her veins, plush lips so soft, her eyes like black pearls, the mornings of her hair, raven locks twisting through my fingers, smooth grooves of her neck attracting my kisses. Then there were the marks, the small traces of dried blood where the fangs retracted, her face withered away to bone and teeth, flesh pulled taut, head tossed back, hair brittle like straw. Wind blows me away from her to another image, Dorian, young, strong, brawn in the shoulder, golden locks of wavy hair, his hand brushing away the curl in his eye, black as coal like his mother's. There is a hand on his shoulder, pale with black nails. A crushed velvet sleeve covers the bony arm, providing him comfort and security. Run, I hear myself say, but nothing escapes my throat. There is no escape from the man with the gray eyes. He is parched. He must drink, yet there is no water. I look up at Father Bronin suddenly. My rivers of tears have run their course. My family has been taken from me, I say, clenching the air with bent fingers. She died by these hands. My body trembles. I killed my wife, Bronin, drove the stake through and through. My beloved, my one and only, she has burned away with everything I own. Wolfgang Manor lies in ruin. There is shock on Bronin's face. I see the priestly sympathy drawn for someone who has suffered greatly, but I know his is genuine. His mouth twitches. This can't be, Tenor. Say it isn't true. Diana was a harmless soul. Why? I have no words to say. I am left with my spiraling thoughts of Diana. Your son! Where's your son? There is a voice behind me. He is gone. Vanished upon our arrival. Kronklik's voice draws me from my gloom. I see the doubtful looks surfacing in Kronklik's face as I stand up. Vanished? But what of the butler? What was his name? Joachim, Kronklik quickly follows up. is missing as well. A coincidence, yes? The sarcasm in his voice is apparent. You don't think... Given his certain past, Franck interrupts, Lord Wolfgang and I can only assume Joachim has abducted his son. To what effect is still unclear. God, give us strength, breathes Bronin. I wonder if God hears him after all the things I've witnessed today. Franck could not be closer to the truth, however. My notions about Joachim are the same. Everyone warned me before. A man of a broken past, serving me in my own house. I had a charitable thought, hiring him to work for me. After all, it was I who saved him from his death. Years ago, he discovered his mother succumbed to the vampire's bite. During those times, public executions were normal. My word alone was not enough to appease the bloodlust of the town. They had to see it for their own eyes. The mighty hunter absolving the undead to the higher power. Joachim was a teenager then, coming of age, and he insisted on watching. He wanted to see what the work of a hunter was like, and so he watched me plunge the wood through his mother's heart. The one who gave him life died at the hands of tenor Wolfgang. Now, with both he and Dorian missing, something deep inside tells me Joachim is responsible for it. Jealousy? Revenge? Is this Joachim's way of getting back at me? Despite what I'll have to say when I find him, I know I will drive my blade straight through his cold heart. There is momentary silence, as the three of us stand there before the massive pipes of the organ and the stained glass of the panes. Where would Joachim go with Dorian? Asks Franck. Immediately my eyes fall upon Bronin, as he has done the same. There is an unspeakable understanding. I rake my hand through my hair. Lord Eglesian's castle. But it's in ruins, says Franck, shaking his head. Of all places, why there? Evil never dies, says Father Bronin, blessing the three of us with his hand gestures. The image still burns in my mind, the falling castle, the horrors surrounding the grounds, bogarts and caretakers, all of them sentinels for Eglesian. I remember the day the castle fell. Bronin watched over the carriage, keeping evil at bay with holy relics, while Franck hunted the surrounding woods for wildermen. I had come running down the path covered in dust from the rubble. Even though the castle fell, the grounds remained buried under centuries of old stone. The rocks and dirts of the accursed place retained the evil, growing for the last 1,000 years. Joachim abducting my son, the attack on the town, my next plan of action becomes very clear to me. We must make for the ruined castle of Eglesian. There is no objection from Franck as he nods his head. He turns to leave and I grab his arm. There are blotches of red all over his suit. Let us rest the night. At dawn we will leave. Franck slings his crossbow over his shoulder and smiles. Then at least a good meal is in order. Quickly he exits, leaving Bronin and me alone. You're not really thinking of going back there, are you? Bronin's eyes are inquisitive. The evil will have time to manifest. Things will be waiting for you in the shadows. Already I am thinking of the preparations needed before heading out in the morning. What choice is there? I must follow my gut. I must find my son. Father Bronin stares at me for a moment before nodding his head. Then I will go with you. Having him along would help, but I am reluctant to accept his offer. Who would defend the church if you left? Only priests and the archbishop can play the organ. It is no matter. Nestor is quite capable from the sessions I've given him. He will suffice. There is not much I can say, and I nod my head. A baby's cry draws my attention. The woman at the pew attempts to silence her son, cradling him in her arms, whispering in his ear. I know it is time, and I motion to Bronin. Standing before the woman, I see how beautiful she is. Long brown hair to her waist, all turned loose, most of it in her face. Gray eyes peer from under her mop of hair, and she pulls her child closer to her breasts. Bronin stands to the side in a less threatening posture, hands pressed together, head bent. What is your name? I ask her. Her eyes flick up at me, pupils dilated. Isabella, she says. Her voice is weak, drained from crying. All will be well, I say, while stepping forward. She does nothing as I take the boy from her, an infant no larger than both my hands together. His head is hairless and smooth. What is his name? Manson, she manages to say. She begins to shake. A strong name. The church will take good care of him. Without inspecting the child further, I hand him over to Bronin, who treats the boy like fragile glass. Bronin moves to the woman and brushes the hair from her forehead. Go in peace, he says, passing his hand over her body. Isabella begins to sob as Bronin carries Manson away. I wait until I hear the sound of the door closing before I tell Isabella she must proceed. Motioning with my hands, I point to the ancestral chamber that I originally passed through. Her face drains of all its color. I wait patiently as she walks through the threshold, passing from the mass chamber. Inside, she kneels before one of the skulls behind the wrought iron grate. Her back is to me and she shakes uncontrollably. So many times I have done this. I tried to imagine being in her position. Would I react the same? The answer is always no. Bitten victims of vampires take a day to turn. Those bitten by a ghoul take 3. I wish I could give her more time with her son, that she could enjoy the precious time she has left with him, watch him laugh and cry some more. But I cannot run the risk. She might flee with her son, leaving Manson to a far worse fate. Tomorrow, I leave, and so I have no other choice. Drawing close behind her, I hear her whimpering and heavy breathing. Her scent is that of sweat and flowers. Her back is to me, and I clearly see the dry petals in the folds of her hair. Normally, I would ask for final words, but I know she will not speak. She cannot. Her mind is elsewhere, and I must release her from that dark place. Quickly, precisely, I drive the blade from my belt in between the second and third rib of her back, her heart pierced in an instant. I feel her body go limp. The thoughts of the day have taken their toll on me, the destruction of my family and home, the death of a mother and her son, now the death of another mother. I heave a heavy sigh, and my shoulders slump. At least her son has been spared. Clutching Isabella's hair with one hand, I sever her head with the bawaka. Blood sprays onto the ancestral skulls on the wall.